through how the live events platform can be integrated into one of our virtual solutions. I'm going to start off by showing you how the front end appears, and then I'll move into GoToWebinar's dashboard, walk you through some of the features of GoToWebinar itself, and then finally we'll publish a new event and I'll show you how that appears on the front end of one of our virtual solutions using the live events platform. So let's get started. This is Bradford's virtual experience, and up in the top right hand corner here we've got the option to watch live events. So if I click on this live events section, it's automatically showing me here all live events that are currently registered in GoToWebinar. So nothing happens here manually, everything pulls through automatically. So when we add a new event in GoToWebinar, it will automatically pull through on the front end in here. So you can see that there's currently one event in here called Sample Webinar. I'm just on a trial account here for demo purposes. But what we're going to do now is add a new webinar in, so that you can see exactly how that works. So if I jump across to GoToWebinar, I've currently logged in, as I say, just with a trial account, but you can see here that we've got one webinar as an upcoming event. What we're going to do is create and schedule a new event, and while we do that I'll walk you through some of the features of GoToWebinar. I'm not going to go through everything, I'm just going to go through some of the highlights so that you can see how that works. So let's kick off by scheduling a new event. So just press the schedule button there and let's call this test event. So it's asking me how I want to publish this, so I'm saying that I want to publish this once. You can choose here whether it's something that you do once or whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, custom. You can also say whether it's a recorded event if you already have something that's recorded so that it's available all the time, or whether it's something that just appears for a set period of time for a sort of live broadcast. GoToWebinar also has this feature called simulated broadcast, where you can run a live event but then reschedule it to run at set times. The benefit there is that if you're operating across different time zones, you can run essentially a live event in a country without actually having the event physically happening, if that makes sense. So you might record it at 9 o'clock in the morning in the UK, but then you want to show the same video in America also at 9 o'clock. So rather than the users in America having to log on in the middle of the night, you can schedule that live event to run again starting at 9 AM US time, and all you would need then is someone to maybe man live chat or something like that, rather than delivering the whole webinar over again. So that's quite a cool feature as well. The settings here are all fairly self-explanatory. We're going to be delivering this event as a webcast, which is what you'll need to deliver all events as to use them with the live events platform. That basically just means that you're viewing it through a web browser and you're getting audio from your web browser as well. So we'll press schedule on that, and that's now added into the system. So this is kind of a more detailed breakdown of exactly what this webinar involves, but you can see I'm one of the organisers here. You can add other people in as either organisers or panelists, so other people that can contribute to the webinar session itself. You can add a description in for the event here, and I'll show you where that pulls through in a little bit. So I will just add a really basic quick thing in here saying this is a description, and then the sections that follow down here, most of them are fairly self-explanatory. I'm not going to go through them now. I don't think you'll need much support with most of these. GoToWebinar make it really clear exactly what everything does. But the thing I wanted to show you was right at the bottom, this engage your attendees. So these are some of the cooler features of GoToWebinar that I particularly liked. So on the first off, we've got survey, so you can add a survey in either after the webinar or in the emails that follow, or if someone doesn't attend the webinar, you can ask them various different questions. So you can set up this obviously survey title here, but then questions that they have to answer, and they'll be sent through to attendees or absentees after the webinar takes place, so that you can get feedback on how it was, anything you could improve, anything you could do differently next time. That's all bundled in as part of the system. So we're not going to actually add that survey now. You can run polls. So during one of your talks, you can action a poll. So you'd predefine what you're going to ask. You'd set up the questions, and then in the webinar, everyone can vote to get an answer. So that could be something that you actually ask as part of the talk. It could be something in context to the talk, saying what does everyone think is the right answer, and everyone votes. Or it could be used more of a tool to sort of say, what are you guys interested in? The next talk will be decided by you. Here are the options, you decide. There's loads of different things you could do with that, but that was one idea and one thing that I thought was pretty cool. So you just predefine what you want in the poll, and then during the event as you're running it, you can just press go on those, and it prompts that question to everyone. Next one is handouts, which are fairly self-explanatory. You can upload files within here, up to 5 in each webinar. So this could be PowerPoint presentations, it could be video files, it could be our Word documents, imagery. You can upload them into the system, and then viewers of the webinar can then, at key times, you can push out the handouts, and they'll be able to access those files and download them directly from GoToWebinar. So that's just quite a cool, helpful thing, and something that if you're discussing a particular image or something like that during a webinar, you can share it out with everyone, or a report, you can share it out with everyone and they can download it and look at it at their leisure, which is pretty cool. Lastly, videos. So you can upload videos into the system, and then while you're playing it back, you can so while you're running the webinar, you can change the source of the webinar. Instead of it being a webcam, maybe it will be a playback of this video, but that'll be synchronized across everyone, so you can say, and now we're going to watch the video, press play on the video, and everyone will see that instead of hearing the presenter talk and seeing their webcam, and then when it finishes it'll revert back. So again, you can have 5 videos for each webinar that you run as well, which is pretty cool. So I've not added any of those in for now, but now that we've built this, within an hour or so, this webinar will automatically appear on the front end. So I'll wait for that to happen, and then we'll pick up once this is in the front end, and I'll show you what the registration form looks like, and then finally I'll show you how an actual broadcast might happen. Or so, and that means that the live events platform will have had time to pull down the latest data. So if I now open up the live events section, sure enough, in the event listing we see the sample webinar, but we now also see the test event that we added earlier on. So if I read more, obviously if this had a much longer description that would appear here, but we've got the time, we've got the title of the event, and we can now register for the event as well. So if I click on that, we get given a contact form, sign up form, that we can enter data into. So if I just add my my details into here, they're already saved, and press register, this will now send an invite request to GoToWebinar, and I will receive an email with login details, but it will also, once it's heard back from GoToWebinar, it will actually launch the session here within the live events platform. So obviously at the minute this webinar isn't actually live, it's not scheduled to start until tomorrow, but you would, if the event was happening, you would see it there in this panel. So you could close that, browse around, and then when you want to go back to the events platform, you can continue watching it within there. So that's a really nice way of having the content sitting alongside the webinar as it's going on. So that's on the front end how you would see and interact with the webinar. I'll now just show you a quick overview of how you would actually run a webinar. So we're back in GoToWebinar here, and I'm just going to show you how we would actually run a webinar and some of the settings that you can see whilst you're in that. So I've already actually started the webinar, but to start it you just press the button there. I'm running it in practice mode, but I'll just jump across to it now so you can see the control panel. So you can see here on the right hand side This is the control panel that as the organizer you'll see in the right hand side. And I've not actually started the webinar yet, but you get a little time to sort of set up ahead of time first. Just make sure everything's okay. You can test everything, make sure that your webcam's working, all that kind of thing beforehand. And then when you're ready to start, you can press Start Webinar. So I'm going to do that now. So if I press Start, it's just saying it's actually scheduled to start tomorrow, but do you want to start it anyway? So I'll just say yes, and it's now starting the webinar. So if I just press Start Broadcast, I've got it ticked there so that it'll automatically record this on start, and that's helpful because it then will become one of the recorded events. So later on, if I wanted to have that available as an event that's available on demand all the time, I can do. So if I press Start Broadcast, I'm now being told that in my headset that I'm now ready to start, and that attendees are now seeing what I'm seeing. So just working through from the top, I can share my screen here. I can share my webcam here. So if you've got an external webcam, you can also hook that up here. But I'm for now just going to share my screen, and you just do that through here. So whatever I can see in this little window here is what the attendees of the webinar will see. You can pause the screen at any time, so the user won't know that it's paused, but you can pause the screen so that you can go do something else, and then press play again, and it'll just carry on from where you were. If there's other people presenting the webinar with you, you can give them keyboard and mouse control so they can take over for a little while, or you can even change presenter if there's another person presenting with you, so that they've got full control and can see everything. Just working our way down, we've got a little sort of analytics dashboard here that says how long the webinar's been going on. It tells you how many people are in attendance, and then this is a really cool feature that I like, where this tracks how attentive the attendees are. So you've probably all been on a webinar where someone starts talking and you sort of half listening, but you maybe close down the window and you start browsing other things. GoToWebinar actually tracks that and tells the presenter how engaged people are and how attentive they're being. So if lots of people start dropping off and doing other things, the presenter gets real-time feedback that that's the case, and they can hopefully do something about it. As an attendee, you can ask questions, and you can also raise your hand within in a sort of similar to the poll system, but you can do that from the interface as an attendee. So if you've got a particular question that you can ask, it comes into the central collection area to start with, and then the people who are managing questions can either make them public, or they can make them sort of privately respond to those questions through there. But that's quite cool, so people can ask questions as you go through, and you can have people managing those questions as they come through. The attendees section just lists who is there, so it's just me at the minute, unfortunately. And then the audio section is equally boring. That just says how I'm dialing in. So I'm currently dialing in from my computer, and I'm using a microphone on my computer for audio, but you can, I believe, dial in from a phone as well, if you've not got that capability. As the attendee using the live events platform, you'll need to access audio through the web browser, which I would imagine you would want to do anyway, but just to be clear on that. Webcam settings are there. Questions will come through here, as I say, and you can reply either privately or you can reply to everyone on those questions. If we had set up a poll earlier on, we could select it here, and then once we're ready to launch the poll, you just press that button there, and the broadcast will essentially freeze out of everything else that's happening. You can still hear the presenter, but you can't see the broadcast again until you've voted on the poll. Likewise, handouts here. You can, if you haven't already previously added handouts to a presentation beforehand, you can do that in session here. So if someone says, oh, can you just send me this, you can upload it in session and broadcast it out to everyone. And then finally below that there's a chat function where you can talk to the whole audience over chat if need be, or you can target a particular group of people within there. I believe you can also target individuals. I think that's pretty much everything in here. Again, it's one of those things where it's a case of having a play with it, but there's tools within here, so if you want to highlight certain things, you can do that in here. So if you want to highlight a particular area, you can change your cursor so that it's like a laser pointer all the time, so you can point out where particular things are. There's other tools within here, but they're worth having a play around once you get set up. Okay, hopefully that's been helpful. Please do give us a shout if you've got any questions. Thanks very much.